watching W.Media and we are coming to you from the Chennai Cloud and Data Center Convention 2026. I'm Deborah Grey and joining me now is Mr. Siddharth Jain, Managing Director, EPI India. Welcome to W.Media.
Thank you so much.
Siddharth, why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your own professional journey and also a little bit about your organization.
Okay. So I'll keep the professional journey specific to India. So I brought in EPI India in 2008. So that was almost 19 years ago. That's when we set up EPI in India. Before that, we were operating out of the Singapore office, and we established the office then in 2008 in India.
Right.
And since then, we have been part of the data center industry whilst it was in the very nascent stages. And then those days, you had just a handful of data center operators who had a handful of facilities, and we kind of worked together. We trained the entire workforce. We did audits, we did certifications, and that's how we kind of grew along the way with the industry. So that's been basically our 18-year ride that we've had so far in the industry.
But this must have been a very exciting period for you as well, because you've seen the industry grow and evolve.
Absolutely. So I see I can, this is something that is so close to my heart, and I can tell you, in the last 18 years, we saw the time when we started calling a 2 megawatt and a 3 megawatt data center a very large data center, right? Coming from there, we're talking about 1 megawatt per rack, today. So you can imagine where we are. When I look back at these 18, 19 odd years, I tend to, kind of get goosebumps, because we've done 1.5 gigawatt today in India collectively with all the data centers. And that's happened over the last 18, 19 years. What we're standing at that point where the next 3 to 5 years, we are going to 7x, 8x or 9x that capacity. So can you imagine where we are, where we were, where we are, and where we are about to go? So we're standing at that cusp, and that's really, really, exciting. It's I know, for lack of words, it's really a great time that this industry is.
It's a thrilling adventure.
It is, because believe me, every time you're learning something new. And as EPI, our customers look up to us and look forward to kind of get, certain new insights, new concepts, new designs, etc., ideas coming from us. So that's where, we need to keep ourselves abreast. Like way back in 2022-23, I was involved with doing the concept design for one of, one data center in the Middle East, wherein this was a standalone single 1 gigawatt data center. And when I say 1 gigawatt is commissioned and standing. So it's not something that's only on paper. So I did the entire concept design for that particular data center. So that was something that we were doing for the first time as well, because that scale was happening for the first time, right? Now liquid cooling, we are going on to the single phase, double phase, 2-phase immersion cooling. We're talking about direct to chip and all these things. So these are new things, and a lot of intricacies that you need to get into, when you especially start looking at, the secondary network on the, liquid cooling systems, etc. So it's very exciting. It's thrilling. Yeah. So I think that is where, we get our dopamine from.
Okay. Now there's this whole conversation surrounding green building and green design and build, but I'd like to pick your brain on the audit side of things.
Yes.
What is happening there on the ground? What have you observed?
So, green and availability. This is always a seesaw relationship.
Right.
You go high on green, you have to go less or lower on the availability. You go high on availability, you are not going to be so green, right? So there is always this thing. But what is really important, and where the real audits play a role.
Right.
So these have to be standard driven. Right, so you have the TI 942, which is really evolving with the industry. You have the ISO 22237, which is coming in. In Europe, we have the EN standards. So these are already there. These are proper, real data center grade standards. So what is very important is A, that those are followed, and secondly, the organizations conducting these audits, right? The auditors need to be skilled enough to know what they are auditing, right? Now, if you talk about a rated 4, we are talking about auto detect, auto isolate, and continue operations. But most data centers that I'm ending up seeing, they have auto detect, but the auto isolate is missing. Right? There is human dependency in the isolation part of it. So essentially, you're reduced down to just a concurrent maintainable facility and not a fault tolerant facility. So that is the level you need to make sure that your auditors go to. Now we're talking about a whole lot of hyperscaler designs on the power side of things. So we're talking about distributed redundancy. We're talking about the catcher arrangement. Now, does the auditor really know how to validate what is the single point of failures on the catcher, on the distributed redundancy? So those are things that the industry is missing at large. Unfortunately, we are buying certificates and not audits.
Oh, that's a very strong statement.
Yes. So this is what I think end customers hosting with hyperscalers or colo sites need to be cautious of. And these hyperscalers and colo sites. So I mean, of course, most of them are very, very cautious of it, right? And they know what they are doing. So that is where I think it's important that they maintain that. So they should really be looking at real audits.
When it comes to meeting these standards, do you think AI can play a role in improving efficiencies and helping organizations meet these standards so that it can probably be easier for the auditors as well?
So AI is definitely being used, right? So digital twins, and then we are doing a lot of simulation. So a lot of AI assisted CFD simulations and analysis and all that. So AI is already being used.
Okay.
Moving on to the operational aspects of the data center as well, a lot of AI is being used now, right? From the DCIM and all those tools perspectives. So that's definitely happening. That is definitely there, and I think that we're going to see more adoption of that, which obviously makes life easy for everybody.
But there's still several operational challenges as well, right? What would you say are the key operational challenges, and how do you see them being resolved in perhaps an innovative way? Because we need, modern problems need modern solutions.
Exactly. So I mean, you bring up an excellent point, and I'm sure being in this industry, you're also watching this whole thing very closely, and so from a design and build perspective, yes, we are kind of getting there, right? So we are seeing more and more audits that are easier for us to clear and certify. But when it comes to operations, there is a lot of I would not call it a gap per se, but what I would like to say is that certain things, you do certain things a certain way,
right?
But the times are changing. Right, the technologies are changing. Yes, yes. So what we need to do is first we need to baseline and understand what is it, where do we stand, right? So it's basically doing a maturity assessment of your operations.
Okay.
Because operations is, it's basically three moving pieces. It's your processes, it's your policies, and then it's your people who are running those policies and processes.
Right.
Right. So in most places you have policies, you have your SOPs and MOPs in place, but the way it is being executed might not be the way that it should really be done, right?
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of that can be attributed to a sort of a skills gap that we don't really have the right manpower. How do you propose to, address that in a way that actually produces results?
So what is again very, very important is that the people who are already within the data center space, right? So firstly, they have to go through the trainings that bring them up to speed. Those who have gone through training 10 years ago, they need to get into the refresher training part of it, right? Things have changed. We're not talking about a 3 kilowatt rack anymore. We're talking about 120 kilowatts per rack. We're talking about completely different technologies across the board.
Right.
So those people need to go through a refresher training. Now, with the growth, the unprecedented growth that we're seeing in the data center market, there is genuinely a skill shortage. So what are we doing? We have to depend on adjacent industries. we need to look at a good electrical engineer, we need to look at good plumbers, from adjacent industries. We need to bring them into the data center space, but it's also important to understand that a good electrician or a good plumber or a good electrical engineer or a good mechanical engineer does not understand what a data center is. So somewhere you need to give him that context.
Integrated learning.
Yeah. Oh. So that is where again EPI has been one of the pioneers. So since the last 29 odd years, when we launched all our training programs, and they are constantly upgraded, they're constantly updated, and we have international accreditation from a certification body called EXIN.
Right.
So these are globally recognized certificates. And we are obviously working on every level and every aspect. So we have a design and build track, we have an operations track, we have a governance track, we have sustainability. So all this, the entire gamut that is needed to basically, up the skill is available.
Perfect. We're in Chennai today. What attracts you about the Chennai market? What gives you hope?
So, Chennai, two things come to mind. One is, of course, the tropical climate.
Yeah.
Second is, we faced severe floods and the crazy rains and stuff that we had a couple of years back. But again, what we need to be cognizant of is even today, 18%, virtually 18% of the data center market is in Chennai, right? Or the data centers that we talk about are in Chennai. And in just my presentation today, I was talking about this new, the Dakshin Silicon Corridor, as I called it, which is basically, the arc that is being formed through Chennai, Sriperumbudur, and, Hosur, all the way up to Bangalore. So about a 325 kilometer arc. That is coming up as a big space where, AI facilities are coming up, right? And the foundations have already been laid. A couple of projects have already been announced, have started. So definitely this is going to be a place. Given the the higher temperatures that we are looking at, we are also looking at higher inlet temperatures now from a chilled water perspective. So higher chilled water temperatures and all, especially when we move to the AI infrastructure, right? Because now I can, so instead of looking at the 7 degrees, 12 degrees that I used to look at earlier, I'm absolutely, my chips are absolutely happy at 30 or 40 degrees centigrade. So I can actually run that infrastructure without a chiller. So I can go chillerless, if I may call it, except for maybe that 1 week where you might need some assistance with some water to kind of cool down the peak 1 week that you typically have every year. But yeah, I mean, the environment is getting very conducive for a typical, chilled water liquid cooled deployment.
Okay. You are also here at Chennai CDC as a speaker. You gave a keynote presentation as well. I was wondering, what was that experience like? What attracted you to participate?
So, one thing, so it's not the first time that we're doing.
You're an old friend of W.Media.
Yes. So, the beauty here is that, you guys do such a fabulous job with it, and you get everybody together. So, this is one place that I get to meet all my industry peers, my seniors, my colleagues, whom I've worked with for the last 18 years, right? Now, if I were to go and individually meet each of them, I think this would be a 3-month exercise for me, traveling across the country. Right. And here I get to meet everybody under one roof, right? A lot of ideas that are getting exchanged. The panels, the speaker list that you have, the topics, the keynotes that you have, there's so much learning for me as well. So for everybody who comes here, for that matter, there is a lot of learning that we're getting. So I think hats off to you guys on this, and I really appreciate that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for those encouraging words. With that, let's end this interview and head for our liquid cooling session.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.